Tonight, we're confronting a story that sent shockwaves through congregations and social feeds alike. Heartbreaking news for Bishop T.D. Jakes. For decades, Jakes has stood center stage in megachurch pulpits and on global broadcasts, delivering sermons that uplifted millions. He's built a faith empire spanning books, films, conferences, and online ministries, all rooted in his reputation for compassion and unshakable resilience. Yet this week, the very institution he founded released a statement that seems impossible. T.D. Jakes is stepping away from active pastoral leadership indefinitely, citing a deeply personal crisis that strikes at the core of his calling. It wasn't a rumor or a whisper in the prayer line. On Monday morning, the official T.D. Jakes Ministries website posted a letter addressed to "My beloved flock," revealing a family emergency so profound that the bishop must withdraw from public duties to provide care and seek healing. The announcement arrived without the usual flourish of uplifting scripture or gentle exhortation. Instead, it bore the weight of raw vulnerability, an admission that even the most seasoned spiritual guide can be brought low by life's fiercest storms. Followers streamed to comment sections, offering prayers. News outlets raced to dissect the implications, and social media lit up with shock and sympathy. How does a man who's helped so many navigate pain now navigate his own? In this first section, we'll unpack what the ministry's announcement actually said and what it silently suggests. The statement explains that Bishop Jakes' withdrawal is centered on urgent family health matters and the need for spiritual renewal. No further details were provided. No names, no hospital rosters, no timeline. This lack of specifics only intensified speculation. Was it a spouse? A child? A longtime colleague? The ambiguity echoes the delicate balance faith leaders maintain between transparency and discretion, protecting loved ones while honoring congregational concern. As we transition into deeper analysis, keep in mind how context shapes our response. Mary's privacy is sacred, but the community's longing for clarity is real. Contrast framing is our tool here. On one side, there's the unshakable image of T.D. Jakes, poised at the podium, his voice a deep well of comfort in televised worship gatherings. He's overcome bankruptcy, personal loss, and ministry controversies, emerging each time as an emblem of God's restorative power. On the other side, there's the sudden, jarring portrait of a man in retreat. No daily sermons, no conference keynote, no late-night broadcast. His absence prompts an unsettling question. If Jakes must pause for renewal, what does that say about the universal need for spiritual leaders to receive support? 2. Smooth transitions will guide us deeper. Next, we'll explore Jakes' public history with personal adversity, how prior crises, financial struggles, marital strain, and the tragic 2010 loss in his extended family were navigated both privately and in public ministry. We'll examine how those earlier storms informed his theology of breakthrough and whether lessons learned then apply now. From there, we'll spotlight reactions across the global body of Christ, congregants sharing how Jakes' sermons once carried them through their own darkest nights, pastors offering solidarity, even critics reminding us that leadership burnout is a real phenomenon. This unfolding story reminds us that faith and fragility often walk hand in hand. No matter how empowered a leader appears, human vulnerability remains. As we peel back layers of public statements, private pain, and collective hope, we'll discover why this moment matters, not just for one man or one ministry, but for every community that looks to its shepherd for strength. Long before this week's announcement, Bishop Jakes had weathered crises that could have broken a lesser ministry, but in each instance he emerged with messages of resilience that resonated around the globe. Consider the financial hardships of the late 1990s. Despite record attendance and best-selling books, Jakes Ministries faced mounting debts from expansive conference investments and property purchases. He has recounted nights pacing empty auditoriums after a canceled event, wondering if he'd misread God's direction. Yet he stood before congregations the following Sunday, transparently sharing his doubts and declaring, "I may not have bank accounts right now, but I have a word from the Lord." That radical honesty became a hallmark of his teaching, turning personal lack into an invitation for collective faith. Then there was the strain in his marriage, which surfaced publicly in 2000 when rumors of separation dogged news outlets. Behind the scenes, Jakes and his wife Sarita endured seasons of exhaustion, long flights, and ministry pressures that both enriched and tested their bond. They sought counseling and committed to monthly retreats, often inviting small groups of congregants to pray for their restoration. When details leaked, Jakes used his pulpit to model humility, admitting that even spiritual leaders need emotional support. His sermons on risking everything for reconciliation were born from that crucible, and countless couples credit their own recoveries to the vulnerability he displayed. A third crucible emerged in 2010 when an extended family member died unexpectedly. Jakes paused the broadcast of his flagship Woman, Thou Art Loosed conference to fly home, a break he described as a holy interruption. He canceled speaking engagements, sending staff memos urging attendees and viewers to pray rather than merely expect messages. That rare moment of silence rippled through his network, reminding followers that rest and mourning are vital components of spiritual health. His subsequent teaching series, Embracing the Gap, explored the paradox of presence, how stepping away from ministry can become ministry itself. Looking back, each of these storms taught Jakes, and by extension his global flock, how to navigate raw pain without losing hope. His theology of breakthrough leaned heavily on James 1 verses 2-4, reframing trials as spiritual weight machines that strengthen faith. When he declared, "My test became my testimony," he wasn't repackaging platitudes. He was drawing from recent experience. Those personal chapters became training grounds for thousands of pastors who adopted his approach, calling vulnerability the new leadership currency. Yet, even as those earlier lessons inspired, they also set expectations for how Jakes might confront his current crisis. Followers remember him leading prayer vigils for personal endurance, hosting radio broadcasts from hospital rooms, and advocating self-care in the face of divine calling. His staff speak of the guidelines he implemented for pastoral burnout prevention, mandatory sabbaticals, mental health check-ins, and small leadership cohorts to share burdens. These structures were born from hard-earned insight that spiritual leaders need spiritual guardrails themselves. What remains uncertain is whether the urgency of today's family matter has outpaced even these safeguards. The ministry's statement hints at urgent family health matters, but declines to elaborate. Some insiders suggest a multi-generational care dynamic, perhaps an aging parent battling chronic illness or a young family member facing a life-threatening condition. Others surmise it may involve his adult children, who have grown into their own spheres of service and may now need paternal support. Whatever the specifics, the ambiguity underscores the delicate tension between transparency and pastoral privacy that Jakes has long navigated. Meanwhile, the contrast between past adversities and present circumstances highlights a new layer of leadership fragility. In earlier seasons, his valleys were visible but navigable. Debt could be repaid, marriages restored, grief processed with communal support. Today's announcement signals a crisis that may defy the usual rhythms of resolution. Will he share daily reflections from a hospital bedside as before? Or will he step entirely backstage, trusting a team of associate pastors to carry forward his legacy until he finds renewal? The choice he makes will test the very model of vulnerability he championed. As congregations worldwide hold prayer services for his family, the familiar question arises: how do you pastor the pastor? Invitations flood in for quick update videos, public appearances, and virtual counsel. But Jakes' history shows he opts intentionally for what he calls holy seclusion. When the storm feels fiercest, that will examine how global faith leaders have responded, what encouragement, counsel, and biblical wisdom they're extending, and consider how this collective outpouring may shape the path back for one of Pentecostalism's most influential voices. Across denominational lines, faith leaders have rallied around Bishop Jakes. In Chicago, the Archbishop of a major Pentecostal fellowship sent a heartfelt video message acknowledging that all vessels of honor sometimes need the altar of rest. He quoted Psalm 121 as a reminder that God neither slumbers nor sleeps on behalf of those who trust in him. In London, a respected evangelist published an online letter affirming that true shepherds require seasons of recovery, pointing to Elijah's retreat into the wilderness when he fled fatigue and despair. That story, she argued, mirrors Jakes' withdrawal, a divinely orchestrated pause rather than a failure of calling. At the Willow Creek Association's Global Pastors Conference, chaplains organized impromptu prayer circles specifically for Jakes' ministry family. Attendees circulated an open petition urging leaders to commit to similar sabbatical protocols and mental health support networks. One conference veteran reflected on how burnout and compassion fatigue can erode spiritual wells, and he praised Jakes for modeling the courage to honor personal limits. Meanwhile, a coalition of African church presidents joined a virtual prayer vigil broadcast across multiple time zones, emphasizing that in communal intercession, the burdens of one become the burdens of all. Tweets from these leaders cited Galatians 6 verse 2. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Evangelical influencers on social media have likewise turned their platforms into forums for solidarity. A popular YouTube pastor uploaded a candid commentary urging viewers to send notes of encouragement rather than conjecture. He noted that speculation on social media can compound pain and encouraged comment sections to function as prayer walls. Podcasts devoted entire episodes to dissecting Jakes' legacy of resilience, while stressing that public figures deserve grace in times of private crisis. Many mirrored the phrase, "We are praying, Bishop Jakes," which quickly trended across networks, shifting attention from rumor to rumor-free support. Academic theologians have contributed insights as well. Seminary professors released articles examining the biblical precedent for Sabbath and rest, citing Genesis 2 verses 2 to 3 and Jesus' invitation to come apart in Mark 6 verse 31. A leading Christian ethics scholar titled his essay, "When the Pastor Needs the Pastor," exploring structures that protect clergy from isolation. His proposal calls for mandatory peer accountability groups and shared leadership models so that no one person bears the weight of a global ministry alone. These scholarly frameworks now inform denominational policies, signaling a systemic shift toward holistic pastoral care. Internally, Jakes Ministries has mobilized associates to step into new roles. Regional overseers have been appointed to share preaching responsibilities, ensuring congregations worldwide can continue to receive spiritual nourishment. The ministry's website now features daily devotionals penned by trusted lieutenants, and online prayer rooms have extended their hours to facilitate global intercession. Staff memos encourage team members to lean on one another and schedule restorative retreats, reinforcing the culture of care Jakes established in past seasons. For laity, the shift has been poignant. Prayer chains formed spontaneously in homes and online prayer rooms. Elder boards across cities allocated funds to support Jakes' family during medical needs. Bible study groups that once debated sermon points now pray for clarity and healing, transforming fellowship into lifelines of compassion. Even critics have paused criticism in deference to the gravity of this chapter. Bishop T.D. Jakes' sabbatical resonates as both a private plea and a clarion call to reimagine how spiritual communities support their shepherds. As we move into the next section, we'll examine how this moment may reshape the future of pastoral ministry, from training to care protocols, and see how lessons drawn from Jakes' journey might fortify the next generation of leaders that in seminaries across the globe. Bishop Jakes' sabbatical announcement has already sparked curricular overhauls aimed at equipping future pastors for both pulpit power and personal perseverance. Professors are integrating case studies drawn from his decades-long ministry, examining how he navigated debt, family strain, and grief to illustrate the vital connection between theological training and real-world resiliency. New modules on leadership, self-care, and ministry replace outdated crash course electives, teaching students to recognize signs of compassion fatigue, to schedule regular retreats, and to form peer cohorts for mutual accountability. In these revamped classrooms, students no longer view self-denial as a badge of spiritual maturity, but embrace disciplined rest as an essential component of faithful service. Denominations are piloting formal licensure requirements that include mental health certifications and regular spiritual health assessments. Prospective pastors must now complete workshops led by clinical counselors and experienced clergy who share transparent testimonies about burnout and recovery. One leading Pentecostal district recently mandated a wellness endorsement for licensing. Candidates demonstrate proficiency in conflict mediation, work-life balance strategies, and boundary setting before ever stepping into a church office. By contrast, under the old model, seminary graduates emerged well-versed in exegesis but unprepared for the emotional labyrinth of leading thousands of parishioners. Meanwhile, apprenticeship programs are evolving into holistic residencies. Instead of short-term internships shadowing only preaching and administrative tasks, seminarians are embedded in ministry teams for 2 to 3 years, rotating through roles in counseling centers, pastoral care, and family outreach ministries. During these placements, they maintain reflective journals and participate in group debriefs facilitated by licensed therapists. This immersive approach mirrors medical residencies, underscoring that spiritual care demands both head knowledge and heart stamina. Bishop Jakes himself has approved a pilot grant funding 5 such residencies, reinforcing the principle that shepherds need shepherds too. At the denominational level, councils are drafting pastoral care protocols to safeguard clergy well-being. These include mandatory sabbatical cycles, minimum 6 weeks every 4 years, during which lead pastors hand over responsibilities to designated teams. Church bylaws are being updated to require budgets for peer supervision groups and mental health resources. Larger ministries are installing on-site counseling offices and offering confidential hotlines for staff under stress. Smaller congregations collaborate regionally to share resources, ensuring that no solo pastor bears an unmitigated load. That spirit of communal care honors Jakes' legacy of collective prayer and reflects the psalmist's call to bear one another's burdens. Seminary accrediting agencies have also taken notice. Accreditation standards now reward institutions that demonstrate robust pastoral wellness initiatives, from faculty training in trauma-informed pedagogy to campus spiritual formation retreats open to all students. An accrediting panelist noted, "We're moving toward a scorecard that values human sustainability alongside academic excellence." This shift elevates the conversation. Ministry isn't solely about delivering correct doctrine, but about sustaining embodied leaders who can weather personal storms without forfeiting public ministry. The media's role in reframing pastoral health is evolving as well. Religious journalism platforms have convened roundtables with theologians, psychologists, and ministry leaders to publish guidelines on reporting clergy sabbaticals sensitively, eschewing sensational headlines in favor of context that honors privacy and promotes communal responsibility. This journalistic ethics movement draws direct inspiration from coverage of Jakes' crisis, urging outlets to balance congregational concern with the dignity of pastoral families. When the next pastor announces a break for renewal, the hope is that reporting will reflect solidarity rather than scandal. Finally, lifelong learning for pastors is gaining traction. Online continuing education portals now offer micro-credentials in areas like spiritual resilience and ethical boundary management, allowing veteran pastors to refresh their skill sets amid evolving ministry challenges. Regional church networks host annual restorative retreat summits where leaders share best practices and receive spiritual direction. These gatherings, often held in retreat centers or conference hotels, blend worship, workshop, and wellness experiences, mirroring the very kind of sabbatical Jakes has taken, but democratized for clergy at every level. As these reforms take root, the landscape of pastoral leadership is poised for transformation. By adopting practices drawn from Bishop Jakes' own teachings on vulnerability and renewal, the Church signals that sustainability and sanctity go hand in hand. We'll explore how congregations themselves can partner in this vision, examining practical ways laypeople and church boards can promote shepherd care, foster environments of mutual support, and ensure that when their pastor steps back for renewal, the flock remains both nourished and united. In dynamic congregations around the world, lay leaders and church boards play an equally crucial role in fostering a culture of pastoral care and support. Rather than viewing their pastor's sabbatical as an interruption, congregations can embrace it as an opportunity to strengthen communal bonds and deepen spiritual maturity. First, church boards should proactively develop sabbatical planning teams composed of committed members who coordinate preaching schedules, community outreach, and pastoral responsibilities. These teams meet months before the pastor's departure to ensure seamless transitions and identify volunteers to lead worship, small groups, and counseling sessions. By involving diverse voices, youth leaders, elderly mentors, administrative staff, churches demonstrate that ministry is a shared calling, not the sole burden of one individual. Second, laypeople can engage in ministry agreements. Small groups or cell networks within the congregation can adopt prayer partners or ministry buddies to support one another emotionally and spiritually while their pastor rests. These teams rotate roles such as welcoming guests, sharing devotional leadership, and organizing acts of service in the local community. When the pastor steps back, these lay leaders fill the gap, fostering resilience and ownership. Each group can also host monthly pastor appreciation gatherings, sending care packages or encouraging notes to keep their shepherd connected through words of gratitude and solidarity. Third, congregations might establish a community care fund dedicated to pastoral wellness. Church members contribute regularly to this fund, which can cover counseling services, retreat expenses, or specialized wellness programs for clergy and staff. This financial backing not only relieves practical burdens, but also publicly affirms the congregation's commitment to the pastor's long-term health. Transparency around fund usage, with periodic updates on the minister's progress, encourages unity and trust between lay leaders and pastoral staff. Fourth, church boards and elders can institute ongoing accountability partnerships with neighboring congregations. By creating a regional network of peer pastors and overseers, churches ensure that when one pastor embarks on a sabbatical, another minister can step in to deliver sermons or conduct pastoral care. These regional partnerships often operate under memoranda of understanding that outline responsibilities, compensation, and expectations, modeling collaborative ministry over competitive scheduling. Such alliances extend the safety net beyond a single congregation and promote solidarity across denominations and geographic boundaries. Fifth, lay leadership training programs can incorporate wellness modules. Congregations can invite qualified counselors or spiritual directors to conduct workshops on boundaries, self-care, grief processing, and compassion resilience for core volunteers. Equipping lay leaders with these skills not only supports the pastor's well-being, but strengthens the overall health of the church body. Workshops can be scheduled quarterly and include role-playing scenarios, resource mapping, and reflective journaling, enabling volunteers to respond effectively to congregational crises in their pastor's absence. Sixth, church boards should issue a concise sabbatical guidebook outlining leadership assignments, interim timelines, and recommended resources. Regular updates maintain transparency without compromising the pastor's privacy. Congregants appreciate clear guidelines and feel empowered to pray and volunteer more effectively. As these congregational initiatives take root, a profound transformation can occur, one where pastoral care shifts from reactive crisis management to proactive stewardship of the flock and its shepherd. Imagine a church where every member understands that ministry thrives best when the pastor is renewed, not merely recuperating, where prayer teams, volunteer leaders, and regional partners stand ready to sustain worship, outreach, and counseling so that no individual bears the weight alone. In such a community, sabbaticals become celebrated seasons of communal growth rather than feared absences. Lay volunteers, having received training in boundary setting and self-care, step confidently into roles of compassionate service, fielding visitation calls, leading support groups, and coordinating community service projects with the same joy they once reserved for Sunday mornings. Elder boards, guided by clear sabbatical protocols, communicate openly with the congregation, sharing only what honors privacy while fostering unity. Monthly updates remind members that their prayers and letters of encouragement form the backbone of pastoral resilience. The simple act of sending a handwritten note or delivering a care package becomes a tangible demonstration of the thesis. We are the hands and feet when our shepherd cannot stand alone. Meanwhile, regional accountability partnerships bloom into networks of mutual aid. When one pastor pauses, another preaches. When one church hall is dark for prayer, another opens its doors for midweek fellowship. This cooperative spirit transcends denominational lines and liturgical differences, anchored by the biblical mandate to bear one another's burdens. The psalmist's words, "Let us not give up meeting together, but encourage one another," find fresh relevance as churches collaborate to ensure that no congregation is left spiritually adrift. Staff members at Jake's Ministries, having navigated decades of high-stakes broadcasting and global conferences, model this culture of mutual care. They rotate leadership of live-stream prayer rooms, maintain a shared calendar of retreat schedules, and practice peer supervision to process emotional strain. By living out the principles Bishop Jakes taught, vulnerability, communal intercession, and rest as renewal, they honor his legacy even as he steps back. Young ministry interns learn early that leadership without self-care is a bridge to burnout. They see instead how exemplary pastoral health fuels sustainable impact. For congregants, the impact goes deeper than programmatic continuity. Embracing these practices engenders spiritual maturity and a sense of ownership. When volunteers lead worship, pray for visitors, or manage outreach events, they witness firsthand that the church functions not as a spectator sport, but as a participatory movement. They learn that faith communities are defined not by one person's voice, but by the collective chorus of many hearts committed to shared purpose. This paradigm shift instills resilience that outlives any single leader's tenure, anchoring the congregation in a rhythm of empowerment and interdependence. Moreover, the positive ripple effects extend into everyday life. Families accustomed to caring for their pastor translate those nurturing habits into their homes, workplaces, and neighborhoods. Small group prayer chains morph into support networks for individuals facing personal trials, job loss, health crises, relational breakdown, ensuring that pastoral care permeates the broader community. In living rooms and coffee shops, the ethos of mutual support becomes gospel lived out, reflecting the model of Galatians 6 verse 2 in practical action. As we close this story, consider the wider implications. When congregations embrace sabbatical planning teams, lay-led ministry agreements, care funds, regional partnerships, leadership training, and clear guidebooks, they not only sustain their pastor, but cultivate a culture of compassion that radiates outward. They demonstrate that ministry vitality doesn't hinge on a single pulpit voice, but flourishes when every member is both giver and receiver of care. The church, at its best, mirrors the body of Christ, diverse gifts unified in love, each part strengthening the others. Today's announcement of Bishop T.D. Jakes' sabbatical crisis invites more than sympathy. It calls for action, a blueprint for every church to reimagine pastoral support. In adopting these practices, congregations honor the man who taught them resilience in adversity and reveal that the greatest legacy of leadership is not the sermons preached, but the health and flourishing of the entire community. May every church across every time zone heed this moment as an opportunity to model the gospel's grace in both word and deed, ensuring that when any shepherd pauses, the flock remains steadfast, nourished, and united.